Welcome to the news. From the Michigan, Republican, 10th Congressional District. On February 18, 2023, at the Republican Convention, Kristina Karamo won the votes of 58% of the 2,600 delegates present, winning the chair of the Republican Party. Kristina was, and is, the anti-deep state candidate. Just like they did when Donald Trump was elected, the oligarchs came unglued and came after Kristina with a vengeance. 54 people met in a cabin somewhere deep in the woods and claim they voted out Kristina and replaced her with Pete Hoekstra. In a recent poll of our executive board, 68% of our members still support Kristina Karamo. We wanted to examine exactly who Pete Hoekstra is and what does he represent. We can take the measure of a man by the company he keeps and the people he supports. In the 2016 election, Pete Hoekstra was clearly a never-Trumper and supported John Kasich for president. Let's take a look.
Yeah, I want to be the grown-up in the room. I want to be... But he didn't start out that way. Do you remember the first two debates? He came at me, and I said, wait a minute, what's this? And he came at me viciously. He went to Michigan, and I thought he said, because it's a neighboring state, I thought he said he would win Michigan, and if he didn't win, he'd give up and let him be your governor.
That was Donald Trump blasting Governor Kasich. One poll shows the Ohio governor is leading slightly in that winner-take-all contest, 40% to Trump's 35%. Former representative from Michigan, Pete Hoekstra, is with me now. Congressman, thanks in advance for the time. We know you support Governor Kasich. He lost in your home state of Michigan.
Stop the tape. Trump had won Michigan. Did Hoekstra represent the people of Michigan and support Trump? Of course not. He is an anti-Trumper.
Polling super tight right now with Donald Trump for Ohio. Can he win his home state?
Tomorrow is a very important day for the
he's made it
Kasich
clear.
campaign.
He has said if he doesn't win his home state, he's out. But let's say that he does. Then what? He would still need 110%, which obviously doesn't exist, of the outstanding delegates to get to that magic number, 1,237.
Stop the tape. Even if Kasich won his own state of Ohio, he would still need 110% of the remaining delegates to win. Of course, this is impossible. Interestingly, Hoekstra still supports Kasich, planning to somehow steal the election at convention, overruling the voters' choice, much like what he is trying to do to Kristina and the delegates in Michigan. Listen closely to his answer.
Yeah, that's right. John will continue moving forward. There's a tough path for all the candidates to get to the magic number of slightly over 1,200 delegates. For some, it's a little bit more difficult than others, or a lot more difficult than others. But the probability is that John wins Ohio, that all bets are off in terms of how this thing plays out, and we will have a good shot at still perhaps winning on a first ballot, because there's no telling what candidates will still be in, what they'll do with their delegates and those kinds of things, or it will be a multi-ballot convention, and those are the kind of circumstances where Governor Kasich can win.
So, Congressman, speaking of the system at work, Mitt Romney, the 2012 Republican presidential nominee, has been campaigning in Ohio today. Here is a clip from an event they did together.
And so you look at this guy, and unlike the other people running, he has a real track record. He has the kind of record that you want in Washington, and that's why I'm convinced that you're going to do the right thing tomorrow.
So does Romney stumping for Governor Kasich in his home state help or hurt John Kasich?
I think that, there's a lot of people in the Midwest who have tremendous respect for Mitt Romney. I think that this is going to help Governor Kasich.
Stop the tape. If we look in the dictionary under Rhino, we see a picture of Mitt Romney. This shows how out of touch with the voters Pete Hoekstra is.
My old Capitol Hill colleague Pete Hoekstra is all in for John Kasich.
He's now identified as the establishment candidate.
Well, the New York Times knows of John Kasich and knew him well enough to endorse him heading into the primary season. Does the endorsement from the New York Times help him in Republican ranks?
I think it captures John pretty well.
Can John Kasich in New Hampshire stop Trump and everybody else on the Republican side?
I don't think we're viewing New Hampshire as a place where John's going to be able to stop Trump, but I think we believe that it is the beginning of the process where John Kasich can and will be the nominee. He will come out of New Hampshire strong. He will, at that point in time, force a lot of people to take a look at who he is, what he's done, and where he's going. And we think that at that point in time, John becomes very much a consensus and unifying candidate for Republicans, for independents, and also for some Democrats.
More evidence that Hoekstra and the deep state are going to try to steal the nomination at convention.
Someone who isn't quite so enthusiastic, Mr. Trump. In fact, he's a John Kasich supporter. I'm talking about former Michigan Congressman Pete Hoekstra. Congressman, you heard what Rox was saying, speaking for tens of thousands of Pennsylvania Democrats who switched sides to show their support for Donald Trump. What do you make of that and what he was saying?
Oh, I think it clearly shows why people are very, very interested in Donald Trump. He's the anti-establishment vote. People are angry at Washington. They're angry at politicians. This is one of the reasons that I think, someone like John Kasich has done well with Democrats and with independents in the state of Ohio.
John Kasich lost his own state of Ohio. It was impossible for John Kasich to get the nomination unless they could steal it at convention. Pete Hoekstra never stopped supporting Kasich. John Kasich, in the 2020 election, endorsed Joe Biden for president at the Democrat convention.
I'm a lifelong Republican, but that attachment holds second place to my responsibility to my country. That's why I've chosen to appear at this convention. In normal times, something like this would probably never happen, but these are not normal times. I'm proud of my Republican heritage. It's the party of Lincoln, who reflected its founding principles of unity and a higher purpose. But what I have witnessed these past 4 years belies those principles. Many of us can't imagine 4 more years going down this path. And that's why I'm asking you to join with me in choosing a better way forward. I believe the best of America lies ahead, but only when we rediscovered our shared belief in the United States of America, for our children's future, which can be bright, hopeful, and inspired if we choose to make it so. I've known Joe Biden for 30 years. I know his story of profound grief that has so deeply affected his character. I know Joe is a good man, a man of faith, a unifier.
John Kasich has known Joe Biden for 30 years. Joe Biden is pro-choice and supposedly Catholic. Joe, his brother, and his son have corrupted government beyond belief. The damage Joe Biden has done to America will be hard to undo.
Someone who understands the hopes and dreams of the common man and the common woman. A man who can help us to see the humanity in each other. He knows that the path to a restored and rejuvenated America lies in respect and unity and a common purpose for everyone. Yes, there are areas where Joe and I absolutely disagree, but that's okay, because that's America. Because whatever our differences, we respect one another as human beings, each of us searching for justice and for purpose. We can all see what's going on in our country today and all the questions that are facing us, and no one person or party has all the answers. But what we do know is that we can do better than what we've been seeing today, for sure. And I know that Joe Biden, with his experience and his wisdom and his decency, can bring us together to help us find that better way.
Judge a man, not on what he says, but what he does. Pete Hoekstra does not have our best interest at heart. This just in. Christina Caremo was on the Stu Peters show tonight. You can't miss this interview. Here it is.
Extreme accountability coming forthwith. Good evening and welcome to the Stu Peters show. Well, if you haven't heard, there is a coup underway in Michigan right now, where the real state GOP chairwoman, Christina Caremo, is facing a removal and replacement effort by a national coalition of GOP establishment members who are directly linked to the deep state. that are backing a Manchurian candidate who once chaired the House Intel Committee, was born in a foreign country, and is closely tied to, you guess it, Israel. This Manchurian candidate, whose name is Piet Hoekstra, was born in the Netherlands to Dutch parents. He spent nearly 2 decades in Washington as a congressman, where he worked arm in arm with the deep state and helped to send Americans to die all over the world, along with advancing the Patriot Act to eventually turn the government's guns against the American people. Par for the course, when Hoekstra left Congress, he went to work for the Investigative Project on Terrorism, which has been accused for decades of being a Mossad front group and aggressively lobbies for American support, including military support of Israel and its war efforts against the Muslims, where currently an ethnic cleansing is taking place against Palestinians in Gaza, along with Christians. In 2018, Hoekstra became the U.S. ambassador to the Netherlands, a homecoming of sorts for him, before setting his sights on taking over the Michigan GOP with the help of the corporate press. We all know who funds the corporate press. And on top of all of that, 45th President Trump is supporting this guy. Trump is supporting the theft of the Michigan GOP. Hoekstra and his supporters, including President Trump and the worthless RNC, are claiming that Hoekstra is the rightful chairman of the Michigan GOP, even though he was never voted into that position. Actually, Hoekstra and company held a fake vote, unsurprisingly. We all know voting is fake, for which they only assembled a few dozen people and then voted among themselves to remove elected chair Kristina Karamo from office. So I guess that's a vote that actually does count in this country. And then they voted in Hoekstra as the chair. It was a complete joke. But of course, they expected us to take it all seriously. And when it wasn't taken seriously, the RNC convened and held a vote of their own. So, of course, once again, they're trying to subvert the American process. They're trying to deprive the Republicans of Michigan the right to choose their own leader. This is the top-down approach that has completely destroyed America, destroyed our communities. Any semblance of the state and local governing rights that we once had, gone. This would be like a few people getting together in Washington or New York or maybe, Tel Aviv, and then deciding who the next president of the United States will be, which, let's be honest, that's exactly how it works. So it should be no surprise that this is exactly what's playing out in Michigan right now. But what is a surprise, at least to many people, is that President Trump is involved in this. He's actively working to subvert the Michigan GOP and the people of Michigan. He's not just publicly backing Piet Hoekstra. He's out there claiming that Hoekstra is the head of the Michigan GOP, and he's even saying that the whole thing was his idea. Over the weekend, Trump bragged about it. He told a campaign rally crowd, quote, "I actually recommend Piet Hoekstra. I said, do you think you could ever get this guy Hoekstra to run the Michigan GOP? He's unbelievable," end quote. And Trump isn't just flattering the guy in public. His campaign and his advisors, they're all now working through Hoekstra as if he's the duly elected chairman of the Michigan GOP. He even has the RNC, including Ronna Romney McDaniel's heir apparent Michael Whatley, who has a whole host of his own problems, sending out communications to state and local GOP units claiming that Hoekstra is now in charge of Michigan. And according to sources on the ground within the Michigan GOP, Team Hoekstra is doing the same thing, but with fake Michigan GOP letterhead. They're sending out fraudulent communications claiming that Hoekstra is at the helm and that Kristina Karamo is the one pretending to be the Michigan GOP chair. This entire thing is insane. And it should be completely easy to squash were it not for Trump's approval of it. But why? Why would Trump support this? Well, if we take it from the top, Michigan GOP chairwoman Kristina Karamo, who's been in office since last year, has made securing the state's notoriously rigged elections her top priority. And that's, of course, not made her many friends in the GOP establishment. They hate her. They hate her so much that they've aligned with the corporate media to take her out. Day after day, places like Politico are publishing articles on the Michigan GOP claiming that Hoekstra is in charge and that Karamo and her supporters, which make up the vast majority of the Michigan GOP, are just lunatics. They're just crazy people. It's truly a case of accusing your enemy of what you are actually guilty of. It's projection, by definition. These people are so desperate that they have repeatedly compared Karamo, who is a black woman, to Adolf Hitler. Seriously. These idiots were begging the left to call them Hitler for years so that they could then link themselves to Trump, who was also being called Hitler. But how quickly things have changed from the days of righteous MAGA crusaders claiming that they were giving the country back to the people and the politics back to the grassroots. Now, the people around President Trump, and from what it looks like, President Trump himself, have become the new GOP establishment. We can all run around in circles all day, defending Trump to the hilt, blaming his advisors for his poor decisions, blaming his work for the Uniparty. But at the end of the day, President Trump is his own man. And unless he's living in Joe Biden's basement, I find it impossible to believe that he doesn't know exactly what's going on here. There is no way that President Trump is so insulated by his advisors that he's ignorant of this entire scam. And it's not just Trump. It's almost everyone at the top of the MAGA movement and the Trump campaign. These people were once insurgents. Now they're not. They're in control of the GOP after taking some sort of coup options by taking it by force, and some of it by forming alliances with the people who were already in charge, who genuinely hate America and who want at least half of the GOP's voter base dead. But Team Trump has laid down with them. And this situation in Michigan is their devil baby. And it'll happen again, repeatedly. If they can ram through this regime change there, you can expect this to continue across the country. If they're successful in Michigan, it will be successful elsewhere. The GOP establishment with Team Trump and the intel community at their side is running the same regime change playbook in Michigan that America runs in third world countries like, Ukraine. This fake government goes in and establishes itself as some legitimate force, at least in the eyes of a segment of the population, and then they start illegally moving government officials around like pieces on a chessboard. They put the battery in someone's back and push them into the performing bogus parliamentary moves, or if there is no parliament, they plant one, or more of their agents in the upper echelons of government, and it's all downhill from there. This is what they do. This is what they do every time. And let's not leave out the equation here that what these people are doing to Kristina Karamo and really to the people of Michigan is very similar to what happened to the Trump campaign in 2020, including in Michigan, where the election was obviously stolen and rigged and fake. And remember Arizona? Remember when the corporate media decided amongst themselves that they would call Arizona for Joe Biden, even though they knew he didn't have the votes? Hundreds of thousands of people still standing in line. These people are changing reality as it plays out because we're letting them. You know, we often hear that we're living in the real life Truman Show. But our fake government and the fake political parties that run it are living in the WWE. Our elections are staged. They're fake. They're rigged. The outcomes are predetermined by a small group of people. But there are still people out there who think the whole thing is real, just like pro wrestling, just like the NFL. They actually think that when Donald Trump and Joe Biden walk into the ring, that the outcome isn't predetermined, or at least heavily influenced by people with a lot of money and a lot of power. Combine this with our worthless state legislatures, mostly controlled by Republicans, by the way, which are still allowing unconstitutional election laws to stay on the books, you'll see that the GOP doesn't care about securing our elections. They don't care about getting Trump back into the White House. Again, it's all fake. All of it. It's all fake. They're playing the long game here. It doesn't matter how many elections they lose to Democrats because they're still getting paid. They're getting paid just as much whether Joe Biden is in office or Donald Trump or fake Santa Claus. They're all playing for the same team. If someone comes in and actually fixes our elections, or at least makes them somewhat believable, guess what? The empire of lies crumbles and falls lifelessly to the ground. The jig will be up. These people will have to find something else to do if they're not underneath a prison somewhere or facing extreme accountability for treason. So they don't want to fix it. And anyone who does will be targeted for destruction. Kristina Karamo, the rightful sitting chair of the Michigan GOP, joins us now. Christina, thank you so much for coming. You know, you realize there's no such thing as the Michigan Republican Party, correct? Because every state party is just a subsidiary of the Republican National Committee, the NRCC, the NRSC. It's a Soviet Stalinist state party top-down political apparatus. And the people in the states are not allowed into that apparatus. So really, you never had a chance in hell of ever taking the reins and taking power of that apparatus. All they were ever going to do was take the money, move it into a different bank account, and that's what they did. Isn't that correct?
You know, to your point, Stu, what I've learned, to your point, is that the party really is a shell. And there's large amounts of money that simply pass through in potentially illegal manners from one entity to a candidate and what have you. And the job of the chair is simply to be a facilitator in this scheme. And when I wouldn't participate in being a facilitator of this scheme, then that's when the knives were out to try to remove me. Because the Republican Party, they have been intentionally losing elections for years. I refuse to believe these people are just incompetent. To your point with the 2020 election in Michigan, the Republicans control both bodies of our legislature. And in our state constitution, Article 2, Section 4H, we the people have a right to an audit. It was our own Republican elected officials, our state party, that fought us to try to stop us from prevailing in this effort. So they're nothing more than controlled opposition. And so what we had through the precinct strategy is that the precinct delegates were taken over by a bunch of patriots. And so then they started to elect leadership moving up, including myself, to actually try to restore the republic. But now we have these fake conservatives who've occupied and control the levers of power within the party, to your point, and it's just all for show.
They're calling you Hitler. I mean, this is absolute. Why is President Trump backing this? Do you think he's just ignorant to all this? Is he really that well insulated? What excuses could these diehard idolatry practicing Trump supporters have? I mean, don't get me wrong. We support Trump's 2015 agenda going into the 2016 election, the America First agenda. He was an insurgent. He was the populist candidate. We loved all of the policies that he was talking about then. But what about now? What is this Trump that we're seeing here that's backing this coup?
You know, I don't know what his deal is, but what I can say, when Laura Loomer came out attacking me and spreading lies about me, then I knew people from his circle were coordinating with the RNC in the effort to get me removed.
Yes.
Because the Laura Loomer thing was very strange, because we have multiple mutual associates. And after she started falsely accusing me of a Democrat, falsely claiming that I was making money to get Democrats elected, and multiple mutual associates, including myself, reached out to her and said, Laura, what you're saying is completely false. It's not true at all. Have her stay on your show. She completely refused. And over time, we start to realize, no, she's in on it. And every time I would speak my point of contact with the Trump team, then I would notice that Laura Loomer would come out attacking me again.
Yeah, that's not a surprise. That's not a surprise at all, because coincidentally, all of the people that you're talking about, I didn't know Loomer was involved with this, but now it makes perfect sense. These are all Zionists controlled by the foreign secular nation state of Israel. That we can't ignore that we can't just say that that's a coincidence. Do you agree?
Yeah, I don't know about that. I don't know about what her motivations are. But what I do know is that she just intentionally spread lies about me. And even though we tried to talk to her, she refused to stop. And so at that point, even if such, right, if she had any integrity, she would have had me on her show. And then when I realized that other people who are prominent within the MAGA circle, like Steak for Breakfast, DC Drano, when they started attacking me, I was like, okay, this is not just the rhinos. These are some people within the MAGA network who are launching this attack against me to remove me. And what's so insane is our number one priority is to fight systemic election corruption. That's it. If we don't have secure elections, we don't have a republic.
But these people don't want secure elections. They don't want real elections. They want to continue rigging it like the WWE so that they can remain in power and continue to enrich themselves at the detriment of the American people. I mean, we're talking about a slow and painful death. We are leaving bloodshed, imminent bloodshed in the streets of America. The war will come here. Okay, I don't think people understand. Like, this platform is all about fighting for kids. This platform is all about fighting to save the lives of kids and to save the future of this country. I mean, if these people would just stop lying and quit killing people, this show would cease to exist. It would serve no purpose at all. I mean, do you agree that all of these people are just more interested in self-enrichment and empowerment than they are about the American people? They want it to stay rigged, don't they?
I think the biggest problem we face, to your point, is globalism. In Michigan, we have 2 World Economic Forum offices in Michigan. And that is my big concern. We have some entity called Global Michigan through the governor's office, where they're currently, as of yesterday, asking Michigan residents to bring in refugees, whether they're from Haiti or wherever part of the world they're from, and all these people from Ukraine and different parts of the world. They're asking Michigan residents to bring the people within their homes. But then also, I have a concern that these people may be being exploited, because there was an interview with one of these women who brought in a family from Haiti, and she was talking about how excited she was, how the woman cooks for her. So this may even be some type of modern day slavery. I don't know what's going on, but the whole thing is completely corrupt. Our government is being totally controlled by traitors to the republic. That's why our border is wide open and our elections are rigged. And so our goal at the Michigan Republican Party is to empower Michiganders to know how to take back our country, starting at the city and the county level. It's only going to come bottom up. It's not going to be top down, because as soon as I got elected, I got the cold shoulder from our Republican Senate minority leader, House minority leader. They wouldn't even talk to me, refused to talk to me, refused to work with me, because I'm not a part of the little club. So ever since then, our focus has been empowering the individual. That's the only way we're going to take back our republic. It's not going to be top down. They have too much money and they control the media and entertainment industry. So it all has to be empowering people, how to engage your elected officials, how to hold them accountable, how to conduct yourself at public meetings, knowing your rights. And the more people we empower in that vein, then we'll be able to take back the republic.
I agree 100%. It has to be in the hands of the people. The Constitution directs us what to do with an oppressive government. You know, a government that deprives us of our God-given, inherent, inalienable rights afforded by the Constitution. And that is to abolish that form of government and to replace it with a government that's representative of the people, which you seem to be. We appreciate you coming on. Anything that we can do to help assist you in this fight, we absolutely will. Cristina Caramo, God bless you. Thank you.
God bless you. Thank you, Stu.